She raised big gardens, and they sold farm product around to different people. And he worked in mills, and he worked on construction, and then he joined the CC camp. That's where I met him. And then he went back to Price and worked for a year. And when we were married, he came into Salt Lake, and he worked in a service station there. When he was a kid, he tells about in school one day, he was teasing somebody that was sitting in front of him, and they kept turning around, and the teacher thought it was them in front of him that was making the confusion. Is that anyway, the teacher threw a board eraser at them, whether it was Wood or the other kid, and they both ducked, and it hit the girl behind Wood and knocked her front teeth out. And so
some throw.
And then when he was a kid, he was teasing Clark out in front, and Clark threw a bead at him, and he ducked and went through the window and broke the glass, and his mother was on the table there mixing bread, and all the glass went down into the pan of bread. And I guess he really got punished for that. I think maybe he was a pretty rough kid when he was little. Of course, I didn't know him. I've just heard certain stories. But he was an awful hard worker. We had the auto parts store, and he'd work there all day and come home, and then he ran my dad's farm. After work, he'd work until 9 o'clock at night, and stay up all night irrigating, and go back to work in the morning. And we always had a big garden that we both took care of. Milk cows, and then he got a few sheep, and he was always busy doing something. We built our cabin. We went up and cut the quaky trees down, and skinned them out and left them one winter. And then the next summer we started to build our cabin. Neither one of us had any idea of how to build a cabin, but we built the front room, and or the one room, and that was an experience. We put that fireplace on, and I would climb the ladder and haul these great big brick or stones up the ladder and give them to Wood, and he'd put the cement on and set them. And I'd climb back down and get another big rock and take it up to him. And that's the way we built the fireplace. And then he built the bedroom on, and I had Dottie. And then after we moved to Vegas, we built the front room on and the bathroom. Yes, Dad always liked to do things with the kids and make things. He used to take them to skating and sleigh riding and hunting. He'd take the boys hunting and fishing. I remember Dorothy and Garth, my sister, and her husband would come up for the opening of fishing every year. And Garth would go off with his friends, and Dad would take his two boys fishing. And that's the way they learned to fish, is Wood taught them to fish. And their friends, Jim's and Bill's friends, always remember Wood and good times they had. And Dottie's friends always remembered that they could come and Wood would take them any place. He'd take them sleigh riding and things that they did. And he liked to play magic tricks with the kids. He always had a little story or a trick or something that he would tell the kids. We'd tease him about telling his bear stories, because he always had some fantastic story about something that amused the kids. I'm taking the kids for a pony ride on his leg. He put them on his foot and danced them up and down. He loved his kids, and to take them in the pickup All the kids loved to go on a picnic with Grandpa while we were at the cabin. And Grandpa Reed came from New York someplace. Now, I don't know where they were originally from. And my grandma, his wife, I don't know, I think she was born over in Heroin or Beaver, someplace over there. Then they moved over to Arderville. And when she was 11 years old, the United Arder was there. She lived in that. And her father, when they moved over there, he was quite a wealthy man. He had 2 teams of horses and a box of gold coins. They were quite well to do, but he worked in a mill over there of some kind, had an accident and lost one leg. And they just lost everything in that. He died shortly after that and left great-grandma with the family. And Grandma went out and worked and helped support that family from the time she was 11 years old. And my mother was a hard-working person, too. She and Dad was 33 when they got married, and Mother was 21. He was 13 years older than Mother. He was kind of an old batch when they got married.
Where did they get married?
In Salt Lake Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the 5 children, she said. I can remember the first radio I ever even saw was over to Worthen's, our friends. And we'd run over there when they said they were going to turn the radio on, and all it was just static. You couldn't hardly hear anything. And then we got our radio. It was up on the mantel in the front room, and we used to stand up trying to listen to Little Orphan Annie and Jack Armstrong, but the static was still real bad. It got a little bit better, and then, they got...
Was that because of poor reception in Cambridge, probably?
I guess.
Still that
Mm-hmm. I can remember when we got electric lights. We had gas lights before that in our home. But when we built our new home, we had the electricity. We had a furnace in our new home. And in fact, it was just one of the nicest homes in Pankage. We thought we were awfully smart. And I know Mother had worked so hard and saved for her new home, and she only lived in it 9 years before she died.
How long did you live in it after that?
Well, after we were married, we lived there for 22 or 3 years. Jim was working in Salt Lake, Joan was married, and Bill was he went in the Navy just after we moved to Las Vegas. And we moved to Las Vegas.
So you've seen a lot.
I remember, if we'd see an airplane, everybody would just run out and watch the planes go by. It was really something. And washers, and electric stoves, and fridges. All those things, I've seen. Talents, I guess, if I have any, but just being a homemaker. I like to cook, and I like to sew and make things. My girlfriend and I used to start in the fall and make doll clothes and our kids' clothes, coats and dresses. We'd get together and make candy. Big batches of candy for Christmas. And
What's your
popcorn.
specialty for Christmas?
Well,
Your fudge.
I always made fudge and divinity and
The best.
popcorn and
Peanut butter fudge.
I like to make bread. I really love to make bread. While I was raising my family, of course, we lived across from the schoolhouse, but I would bake bread twice or 3 times a week. And I'd always make a cake and cookies the same day, and the kids would come home from school with 3 or 4 friends, and they'd do away with the loaf or so of bread and the cookies and cake. I always had things like that for the kids. I always tried to teach my children is to be honest in everything they did, and to know how to work, That's so important in this world.